Crime is never a laughing matter, but the sheer audacity and I must admit extraordinary ingenuity of a gang of pensioner-aged British crooks has certainly made many people smile. Last year, the daring villains used their substantial experience to plan and then pull off the biggest burglary in English history. The Hatton Garden vault in the heart of London held hundreds of safe deposit boxes full of jewellery, cash and other treasure. It was said to be impenetrable until these bad grandpas proved that boast a lie. But the old-timers made one mistake, and for them, it was a biggie. They are perhaps the most unlikely gang in criminal history. But the crime they pulled off has few equals.
It's legendary. This is going to go down as an iconic crime. For centuries, probably, we're going to be talking about this.
You pulled it off. You're looking down on every other burglar. You're the Leonardo da Vinci of crime. This is your Mona Lisa.
Easter Thursday, 2015. A white van pulls up in the diamond centre of London, Hatton Garden, and parks outside the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company, one of the oldest vaults in the world. What happens next will stun the nation.
When you're with criminals, you know, they're always talking about their fantasy job, their fantasy job. It's almost like a criminal pornography, it's what they like and what they get off on. And the Hatton Garden vault was one of these iconic targets.
So this is it, this is Hatton Garden. Hatton Garden has been London's diamond and jewellery district for centuries, and its massive vault, built back in the 40s, according to criminologist Professor Dick Hobbs, was considered impenetrable. When I look around here, it's just wall-to-wall jewellery shops. They never in their wildest dreams thought that this place could get knocked over.
That's right. I mean, there's been a lot of crime here over the years, but this was the place that everyone could rely on. They never dreamt that this could be knocked over. This was the most secure place.
Dick Hobbs grew up in London's East End, home to many of the city's most notorious criminal gangs and old-school villains. When you hear a siren?
When I hear a siren, I just think they're playing my tune.
Hard men like legendary gangster Bobby Cummins.
It's a different world, isn't it?
Yeah.
The world that you used to live in.
Well, this is it. I mean, I can walk down here now with you, and I ain't worried about cars slowing down and guns coming out of them, someone trying to shoot me. I can walk
Once one of London's most feared armed robbers, Bobby went straight years ago and now runs a charity for ex-prisoners. But that doesn't stop his professional admiration for the Hatton Garden heist.
You look at it and you know that if you go for it and if you touch it, you're then in the annals of crime as a master at your game.
It's like going for the Olympics in
That's
the
right.
criminal world.
Yeah, the gold medal winner. It's no good getting the silver or the bronze, you want the gold one. Yeah.
And Hatton Garden
was the gold one.
When you heard it had been hit,
yeah,
what did you think?
I laughed. It was a professional bit of work. And when you look at that, there's only a few type of people that could put that sort of work together.
I know a bloke who knows a bloke who knows a bloke.
Well, for most people, their knowledge of crime comes from Hollywood. And this seemed to fit very, very neatly into a Hollywood scenario.
We want to hurt no one. We're here for the bank's money, not your money.
You saw pictures of George Clooney being put beside the pictures of this heist. Straight away, people started to cast the film that was going to come out on the heist.
What I'm about to propose to you is both highly lucrative and highly dangerous.
And it really did seem like a movie scenario from day one.
Go. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
When police discovered the supposedly impregnable Hatton Garden vault had indeed been cracked, Most believed it could only be the work of a highly trained commando team, probably from Eastern Europe. So imagine their surprise, indeed disbelief, when the identities of the gang revealed not so much commandos as an ailing dad's army. A bunch of old farts.
A bunch of old farts, indeed. And this was the kind of one last hit, one last job, one last time. We go again.
This was a gang of senior citizens. The ringleaders included 76-year-old Brian Reeder, who turned up at the robbery by bus using his pensioner pass. Getaway driver John Kenny Collins, who at 75 suffered from arthritis, diabetes and memory loss. Terry Perkins, 67, who was taking 29 pills a day for various ailments. William Billy the Fish Lincoln, 60 years old. He had 2 hip replacements and was incontinent. Danny Jones, also 60, in better shape than his cohorts, but a renowned eccentric who thought his dog was human. And a mystery man named Basil, who has never been caught and may have been the heist's mastermind. When you saw who was involved, what did you think?
I thought these obviously were professional criminals. And I thought to myself, this was their last pop. This was their pension, if you like. But it's like a good mature wine. The older it gets, the more experience it gets, and it's better tasting. And that's what it's like with villains, isn't it?
They spent 3 years meticulously planning the heist, and each had a particular role. They studiously watched YouTube to learn how to operate a massive drill to breach the vault's thick concrete walls. And to cover their tracks, they read Forensics for Dummies.
First off, you've got to do a feasibility study. So you've got to do a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So that is the psychological bit of the job you've got to do.
That sounds like a business plan.
Well, it is.
You've got to put it together before you decide whether it's worth the risk.
Yeah.
And it can be done.
Yeah, you've got to do a risk assessment.
Thursday, April the 2nd, the start of the Easter long weekend. The gang arrives at Hatton Garden at 8:20 p.m, dressed as maintenance workers. Basil has somehow gained access to the building and opens a fire escape door to a side street. Using wheelie bins, the gang unload their tools. Inside, Basil disables CCTV cameras and the alarm system, but not entirely. An alert is sent to the building's security company, but a security guard who checks the building reports seeing nothing suspicious. Nor did 75-year-old John Kenny Collins, who was positioned across the road. He was the lookout man.
Yeah.
And he fell asleep?
Yeah, Kenny Collins fell asleep. Well, when you're that age, you do need your sleep, and he wasn't a well man, so he did apparently fall asleep.
2 floors down, unaware, the gang jemmies through 2 metal gates in an underground corridor. Now they set a massive diamond drill against the wall of the vault. The pensioner crims are half a metre from untold wealth. What do you think they're feeling? They're in their 70s, their 60s, and they're about to pull off the biggest heist in Britain's history. What are they feeling? Are they nervous? Are they a bit sick?
It's a really weird feeling when you go on a bit of work. Everyone's hyped up, right? There is a rush to it. Also, there's a cheekiness to it. You think, we're going to do the best one ever. There's also the fear, because you know in the back of your mind, you do it wrong. I mean, these are old guys. They know they're going to die in jail. Even if they get sentences they got, half of them are not well people, so they know they're not going to make it to the outer gate.
It takes, it sounds strange, but it takes a fair bit of courage to do what they did. You know, they're risking a lot. They're risking their liberty, and when you're in your 70s and you're risking your liberty, it's huge, it's massive. It's not like doing it when you're 25.
After 3 hours of drilling, the vault wall is penetrated. But for the gang, it's a disaster. Stopping their entry, the solid back of the steel safe deposit cabinet, bolted to the floor and ceiling and immovable.
Yeah, they hadn't anticipated that the lockers, that these boxes were going to be on the other side of the wall they were drilling through. And I think this really shows that how professional they were and how old school and how cool they were, because they would then had to make a decision what to do. Did they give it up? Did they walk away? They're free, they've not been caught, but they've not got the prize. They've not got the prize. And to old villains like this, the prize is everything. You know, the prize is absolutely everything.
Do I carry on? Do I walk away? It's a make or break thing there.
For the oldest of the gang, 76-year-old Brian Reeder, the stress is too much. He doesn't come back. But for the others, the lure of the prize is too tempting. They leave Hatton Garden and the next day buy themselves a massive hydraulic ram. Then, late Easter Saturday night, Basil again lets the gang into the building. Their hydraulic ram applies 10 tons of pressure. And with a huge crack, the safe deposit cabinet topples. What would that moment have been like?
Be like Christmas. Opening up all the little presents. And they all sparkle. It would be absolute Christmas. They'd be rocking and rolling inside, thinking, we've done it.
They work through the night, smashing open the safe deposit boxes and spilling out their treasures of cash, jewels, gold. Mysteriously, they only break into 73 of the 996 safe deposit boxes. Perhaps that was all these aged villains could carry out. Even so, they've made criminal history. Still to come, hailed as Robin Hoods. You had a public that seemed to be rooting for the bad guys, thick as thieves, but there was one big mistake.
They would not be in jail if they'd performed the same as Basil.
That's next on 60 Minutes. When news broke of the theft of millions of dollars worth of cash and jewellery from a supposedly impregnable vault in central London last year, incredibly, the thieves were cheered by the public. They'd managed to achieve the impossible. Somewhat cynically, though, there was little sympathy for the victims of the crime because they were so obviously wealthy. But then the crooks got cocky.
This was the biggest burglary in Britain ever recorded. They got away with £14 million worth of cash, gold and jewellery. Officers did not attend the premises when in fact they probably should have done. And for
Commander Peter Spindler headed the police investigation. From the beginning, the public's sympathy was with the villains. You had a public that seemed to be rooting for the bad guys instead of the good guys.
Undoubtedly, this crime captured the public's imagination, not just in Britain, but across the world. I think there's something to do with the sort of Hollywood vision of an Ocean's 11 type gang coming together, the Robin Hoods stealing from the rich.
Livingston, we're set.
Livingston, we're set.
Basher, we're set. The public, everyone dreams, and even straight goer, right? That's why we sell so many crime books. Everyone dreams about robbing a bank or doing a heist or that, you know, but it's fantasy.
This was a heist that seemed so well planned, except for one thing. These old school crims failed to remember they were working in a new age world where just about every square inch of central London is covered with a CCTV camera. So when 75-year-old John Collins cased the joint in his distinctive Mercedes-Benz, not once, not twice, but 5 times, it proved to be a massive error.
They were always going to get caught. You have to remember, these were analog criminals operating in a digital age, and the new digital detective is sitting down methodically, collecting all this information and starting to work backwards from the scene.
Using CCTV and number plate recognition technology, police traced that white Mercedes to John Collins. Within days, Collins led them to Reader and then the rest of the gang. Cars were bugged and hidden cameras recorded them all wherever they met, in cafes and pubs, reliving their crime, boasting about it to each other, utterly unaware that everything they said they were saying to Peter Spindler's detectives.
When you see on the surveillance where we're filming in the pub and our officers have got so close to them that you can actually see them demonstrating how they did it, it's fantastic. So from our perspective, we want them to talk as much as they can.
We know that because of surveillance, we know that they got together at cafes and pubs, and we know they bragged and bragged loudly.
Yeah. When you get to that age, what's the use of doing something really good if no one knows about it? What's the use? You see, it's there. You've done the biggest one ever. What's the use of doing the biggest one ever if you can't tell no one about it? They don't just want to be a thief. They want to be the one who everyone knows is the best thief.
And they were celebrating. They were saying it's the biggest blag ever. We've done very well, aren't we, the boys? Aren't we, the chaps? What are you going to do with the money? I'm going to give something to my kids. I'm going to spend it this way, spend it that way. Yeah, they would have been very, very, understandably, they would have been absolutely pleased with themselves. No problem at all.
For 6 weeks, the police watched and waited, waiting for what's known as the slaughter, where the villains meet to divide the loot.
What the police had to do was catch them with a prize, right? Recovery. It's not just about getting bodies, it's about recovering some of the jewellery. Sometimes you've got to wait, you know, slowly catch monkey.
Is it the slaughter, as they call it, the thing you had to wait for?
I had set the priority for the team of getting the property back. This wasn't about convicting a handful of old men. We could have done that much earlier. The objective was always to find as much of the loot that they had got.
Incredibly, the slaughter happened in a public car park. At 9:44 a.m. on Tuesday, May the 19th, with police watching their every move on CCTV, the gang transferred 3 duffel bags full of jewels to Collins' Mercedes. Police swooped, arresting the main gang members, 5 others connected to the crime.
They thought they got away with it. You know, they'd been sitting, lauding it up in pubs, boasting to each other anyway about what they'd done and how they'd done it and reliving that moment. They thought they got away with it.
What was the reaction of the Crims?
One of them tried to run away.
Tell me not the 76-year-old.
No, I think it's one of the slightly fitter young women. I think one wet himself. So it was a massive shock for them.
For 6 weeks, they think they're in the clear. They've gotten away with it. How do they feel? What do you think their reaction would have been when the cops came through the door?
The bottom would have dropped right out of their world. Because there you are thinking, you got it. And now the thief takers have come in and they're taking you.
The thief takers?
That's what we call police who do that, right? That go in. And the terrible thing is you're the thief that they're taking.
The ringleaders of the robbery, Brian Reeder, John Collins, Daniel Jones, Terry Perkins and William Lincoln, realised how overwhelming the evidence was and pleaded guilty. They were each sentenced to 7 years. Police recovered £4 million worth of loot, but the rest of the haul, around £10 million worth, is still missing. And so too is the mysterious Basil. Police have no idea where he is or even who he is. He disappeared into the Easter night of the robbery and has never been seen since.
Basil has come away with most of the loot, with most of the money, and who knows where he is.
It's very possible the other members of the gang didn't know who Basil was.
Oh yeah, I think it's quite likely that the other members of the gang didn't know who Basil was.
Basil is obviously shrewder than the rest of them. So he's taken his wages through cash and probably gold, very easily disposed. So he's not waited for the slaughter and the divvy up to be paid. He's come in, he's done his bit, he's taken his money and he's gone.
He's obviously an intelligent man. He's not a moron. He's covered all his angles. All the rest are nicked. He's the only one not nicked. He's covered all his angles and he's away. They would not be in jail if they'd performed the same as Basil.
With a combined age of more than 450 years, the Hatton Garden gang will spend a few more years behind bars. As heists go, it went very wrong. But as a movie, it might have a happy ending. A Hollywood producer sat through their trial, and there are reports that already there is one feature film in the works. So perhaps the Hatton Garden gang's one last job could pay off after all.
There's no business like show, business like no.
I mean, there'd be people making films about them, people writing books about them. But having said that, there's two parts of that as well. Because they're going to be angry with themselves for getting caught. But they're going to be really pleased with themselves because they're celebrities now for the rest of their life.
Oh, get out.
Yeah, they're legends now.
There's no people like show, people they smile when they are low.
I think the old buggers will, if they can get out of prison in the next few years, that could coincide with the film coming out. This one's going to run and run. And you've got to say that maybe those old boys, maybe those old buggers will get a few bob out of it in the end.
Oh, do you know what? Crime does pay.
Crime does pay, yeah.
Hello, I'm Liz Hayes. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9 Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.